Hey Jeremy, thanks for
Nicole.
joining us today. I can't believe it's been 6 months since we met and bonded over you finding your phone in the fridge. But I'd love to know more about you. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Cool. So I guess I'm an artist, but I personally I don't like that term artist because it just feels like a profession, but I just see that as just like a passion or just something that I like doing, like a hobby. Other than that, I literally just come to the Salt Lake House basically like almost daily.
Well, you're an incredible artist.
I know. Thank
Everything
you.
you show me is always amazing.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about like your story.
So it probably starts when I was like maybe like 10, 11, maybe 12. It was the end of the school year, and I was doing this like project with like one of my then best guy friend, and there's just something different about it, and I couldn't pinpoint what it was at the time, but like after like the internet, I realized that like I was into guys. So and then I came out probably like a good week or two after that. Like I didn't rush myself. I just felt that I was ready, just like in a good week. I lost a few friends. I made a few. Most of those friends I'm not really with. I'm not really friends with them now, but I guess that happens. But I identified as a gay man ever since like the July of this year, and I came out as non-binary. And ever since I am non-binary, and I use they them pronouns. And yeah, what about you?
The first time I ever started to could pinpoint thinking differently or feeling differently was when I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I was in the middle of Main Street in Disneyland for like the first time ever, and taking it all in. And my parents were as stressed as ever, trying to get us all together, and I was just standing there looking at everything and watching people, and I noticed these two girls like just kiss really briefly, and little me just like was in awe, like jaw dropped forever, just stared at them. I think if they would have looked over, they'd been like, "Who is that little girl?" But I was so shocked. I thought it was the coolest thing ever, and I walked over to my mom and like was pulling on her shirt, and I was like, trying to get their attention, and I was freaking out, and I just had literally seen the coolest thing I've ever saw. And, in the very polite, as gently as I could put it, kind of brushed it off really quickly and was kind of like, no, like that's not really a thing. And we went back to Disneyland, and it was something that was very small, but I look back and that was one of the first memories I have of feeling that way. And then later, when I was in 8th grade, around 14, I started to notice that I was different, and I started watching like coming out videos and just getting as much information as I could, and started to finally have language for the feelings I'd always felt. And I kind of started to realize that there's a lot that comes with that realization, and a lot that I then had to go through, and that drove me to a really really bad place of feeling so shameful, and like I didn't have a place in the world, and I grew up in a place where it really wasn't talked about, and especially that age, and I felt like I was the only one going through it. And I lived with that for about a year, and then I finally told my best friend at the time said it for the first time, and then I about 6 months later told my parents, and after that I really struggled with my childhood and the faith I grew up in, and my family and them staying in that faith. And so we really, battled with that and had to figure out a family dynamic in that year and a half after coming out to them. And Encircle was actually a place that helped us a lot. After finding Encircle, my parents and family were able to understand me, and we were able to kind of take the approach of no sides, only love, like in our own little family, and just learn to love each other and respect each other, and that we can believe different things. And then I ended up after that just kind of telling more and more people, and now it's really cool to get to help use that story. Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about like how you realized your identity and those feelings.
So like in those feelings, I never so like religiously I didn't really have any like religious shame or anything because my family's Buddhist, so we don't really like have any like disciplines or anything. But it's just more like cultural in a sense because like just like even the religion itself, it's very and our like culture, my like ethnic background, they both play hand in hand with each other, and it was just well in a sense it was kind of shame but just not like religious shame. So it's like, oh Jeremy, don't be like those like celebrities and like they like kiss each other and everything. Because my mom, she was just like always watch like these like Asian celebrities back home, just like oh this celebrity is gay and so is this one and look at them kissing. And it was just like I just never saw something wrong with it, which was a thing. And I was like probably 5 or 6 or 7 when this happened too, and I just didn't see anything wrong with it, which was weird because like my mom was just like so like against it, which was just like super confusing. And that was probably like the first kindling of my identity. And then probably 5 or 6 years later, when I was like 11 or 12, I came out. And then here I am now, 3 years later from when I came out. And I feel like I'm still developing, as everyone is.
So tell me a little bit more about your background that you mentioned, being Buddhist.
Okay, yeah. So I was pretty much born and raised here in Salt Lake, I guess. I am 100% Laotian, and just like it's like a little country in Southeast Asia. We're pretty cool. We all know each other here in Salt Lake. It's a pretty small community. That's basically just what I grew up with, and I never really, I never really like learned English until I started school, and kind of just it was pretty interesting because I was just like the weird kid. And religiously and like culturally, with my identity, I never really felt shame in a sense because there was never really was shame other than just like don't do that, because it wasn't just like, oh, if you do this, this will happen to you or that. And it was just like, don't do that because it's just weird. So in that way, I just never saw anything wrong with it, which is a thing. So when I realized I was like into guys, it was just like, oh, okay. So I already had a few friends who were part of the LGBT community then, so it was pretty cool. I told them, and they're like, oh, congrats. Who's like the lucky guy? And I was like, it was my best guy friend at the time.
And tell me a little bit more about like your gender identity and your journey with that.
My gender identity. So I identify as non-binary, and I have for like the past 3-ish and a half months. It hasn't been that long, but I definitely feel more comfortable than I have ever using they, them pronouns as opposed to he, him, he, they. I have identified as a male for like basically my whole life, and it just always felt off to be like called masculine things. So I think probably sometime starting this year, I decided to start using he, they pronouns, and I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. So I stuck with it for a while until July. I made an Instagram post and I was like, hey, I'm non-binary. It went pretty well. I didn't have that many people that kind of took it badly because I already had the people who were already like super accepting of me and everything, and like that community and everything. And I was already here at Encircle as well. So I only started coming to Encircle this year in May, which is when we first met. Mm-hmm. So, but I've definitely found like a great new community and like a family, which I really like because like even though none of us are the same, we can all find common similarities within each other, and I think that's pretty cool.
So Jeremy, tell me a little bit more about like the specific things that led you to realize that you were non-binary and what non-binary means to you.
For like the past like couple years, I've been like called dude or hey, like bro, and all like that like masculine stuff. It always just never like felt right in a sense. It just like didn't like place well within me, if that makes sense. I feel like it doesn't, but like I don't know how to convey it into words. It just didn't feel right to be called things like that. So it's just like it was interesting, but yeah. I only started using they, them pronouns recently. When I started the school year, it wasn't really that difficult because quite a few of my teachers are actually really good allies. Like one of them is a mama dragon and everything. So a lot of them had like little like intro sheets where like, hey, what are your pronouns, preferred names and everything. And like, it made me feel pretty nice because it shows that they really want to like promote like a safe environment within their classroom. And yeah, I never really, coming out as non-binary, I never really had any like people who were kind of just like not against it, because most of the people that I know already are already like acceptive of me. So yeah.
Awesome. And tell me a little bit about like what being non-binary means to you.
Just for me, I feel like being non-binary is just I'm not a guy or I'm not a woman or just somewhere between there. I don't know what's in between there, but I guess that's what I am. Yeah.
What things have like really helped you along that journey? Has there been like specific support that you've had, or have you met other people who have identified as non-binary, and have their experiences been similar to yours?
I definitely had like the home director here in Salt Lake, Chloe. They also definitely had a similar story in a sense. They used to use she, they pronouns, but then they also use they, them pronouns. And I think they definitely kind of helped me see my gender in a sense. And I do definitely know actually quite a few of the youth here actually also helped me. And like, they also talked about their stories and in the friendship circles and everything. I also just talked to them outside of Encircle as well. We all have different stories, but there's at least like one or two common like things that are in our stories, and it just helps me feel validated and just like that I'm not alone within my journey and everything. What about you and your like gender journey and
I feel
adventure?
like gender journey for me is something that's been really new in my life. I over the last like year have really just like finally gotten solidified with my sexuality and gotten everyone on the same page with that, and kind of the waters have calmed, and it just kind of became less of a thing I had to focus on, and then I moved out and I kind of was given a space to actually think about it. And I also, started working here and getting to meet so many incredible people and people like you who have really like inspired me to start thinking about it. And I for like the few months ago cut off all of my hair, which was a lot more of a like emotional transition than I thought it would be. And I've like noticed since then, like I just feel more comfortable in my body. Which,
I definitely remember when that was happening. You were like,
Yeah.
Jeremy, I'm getting my hair cut. That was the first thing. I walked into the door and you were like, Jeremy, I'm getting my hair cut. I didn't even check in yet. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so exciting. And I
Yeah.
came in the next week and you were just like, look at my hair.
it just disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very crazy. I've only ever had a big, long head of hair. And it never felt right. And I always felt like I always was very scared of what others would think. And in high school, I just always was, I laid low and just tried to not make myself known as much as possible. And that was the way I kind of coped with everything through those years. And so,
Were you out in high school?
I was.
You were? How was that?
Technically.
Or technically?
I was kind of like, all of my close friends knew in high school, and my family knew, and a lot of people knew. It kind of just had spread around. But I think after my like first wave of coming out, I was just kind of like, I feel like I don't want to do this to every person I meet, and I was still very much trying to figure out the confidence part of it and trying to like own my own story and myself and my identity, and so it was really hard to then like get over the hurdle of telling it to everybody. So I had told all my close friends and my family, and kind of just let the word get around, and the people who I had met, as high school went on, I told the ones I was closer with, and it was very interesting. I got a kind of a mix of reactions. I had a lot of people who were really great about it, and a lot of people who were not surprised at all, and were like, we were just waiting for you to tell us. And I also had some people who, it was a bigger deal for them, and I had a few people who it just took a bit of time for them to wrap their head around it, and eventually they got back to me and we worked it out. And I think the funniest story of someone finding out that I was queer in high school was one of my best guy friends at the time. I was in a group of friends of all guys, and one of them found out and told me later that he had thought I had a crush on him before finding out. And I just think that's so funny. And we talked it over, and it was so like funny, and we both laughed over it. And that was really funny. But for the most part, I was really lucky to have a group of friends who were really supportive, and they would have my back no matter what. And the few times that people weren't as nice about it. They were always there to step in and always there to have my back and support me on that. And that was really awesome, and it helped kind of dealing with the people who weren't as great about it. And it was also really great once I did come out and more and more people started to know, and I met more and more people who were going to school with me or in my area who also were queer. It was so awesome to finally feel like not alone for once, and like there were other people, and just like I finally had a little community. And at the beginning of high school, it was very small, and it was just a few people who I met kind of through social media and through trying to figure out myself, and then more and more people just at school as school went on. But yeah. How has it been for you? Like, I know is this your second year of high school?
Yeah, this is my second year of high school.
So how's it been in high school for you?
See, for me, since I came out like right before I started middle school, I just basically just started like my like actual schooling being gay, I guess. It wasn't really like anything bad because like most of the people who knew already knew and they were okay with it. Some people weren't okay with it, but like I wasn't really friends with them in the first place because I just kind of didn't like them, to be honest, and they're just like the people who I would not like click with, and it'd just be better off if I just didn't talk to them. I feel like it's still the same, and basically all of my teachers are pretty accepting about it because they can't really do much about it anyways. But I never really had that many people who are just like not accepting of it, and I think it was like the first day of English, and it was like 7th grade. So this is when I like started, and I went to this new school. I was across town and everything. She had her phone, and like her background was like, I don't remember what flag it was. I think it was like the pansexual flag, and I was like, oh look, that's LGBT. I was like, oh look, I'm gay too, and we were like, oh, that's cool. I still talk to her now, and we're like pretty cool friends. And yeah. But other than that, I am like an art kid and everything. Like I said earlier, I was an artist. I'm the head of our arts department and everything at my current high school, and our department is just super accepting. Most of us are queer in the first place as well, so we actually also have a queer teacher somewhere. I don't remember which teacher it was, but it wasn't an art teacher, but he's pretty cool. Our department's pretty cool. Our school in general is pretty cool about it.
I feel like I always found myself like looking for like the little things, especially in high school. Like I'd like notice if people had like little rainbow pins on their backpacks, or like teachers who had like little rainbow flags in their class. Like I always feel like I was looking for those.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And like looking for the people that I would like feel comfortable with. And I somehow found like a little group of friends in high school who have now come out post high school, and we all laugh about it now that we found each other before any one of us were out, and we all just kind of knew, I guess.
It was like destined to happen.
So Jeremy, tell me more about like your art. Like what kind of art do you like to do? Are you in any clubs or anything like that?
Actually, yeah, I am. So I feel like I've only considered myself like an actual artist until like the beginning of this year. I've always just liked to draw and just like do fun little things, but like I've never considered myself like a whole full blown out like artist until this year. I am technically in an art club. We are basically the biggest club in the school because we actually go on field trips and everything. We have like workshops every week and everything. Our school also has an arts council, which is like basically the face of the department, and I'm part of it, so I'm like their communications person, and I'm also a graphic designer as well. So I feel like most of my art is definitely commercial art because graphic design is commercial art, which is to like distribute a purpose and a meaning or something like that. I don't remember what like the actual definition was, but most of my art is definitely super abstract, and like as opposed to like traditional subjects and still lifes, it's more like abstract. Like I remember we had a workshop here at Encircle back in, I think it was it August? Yeah. I think it was August. It was like before we started like renovating and like have like the whole cafe. We had this workshop, and I don't remember her name, but I really liked her art. Oh yeah, Samantha De Silva's art is like I thought it was pretty nice. It was just like super abstract, and then like the mediums that she used like not gesso, she used like spackle to create texture and like all these like different things like dirt, sand, and like sawdust. It created the super like gritty texture, and how I conveyed that was just like seeing grit and sand as like rough. So I used that to convey onto a canvas my feelings for this one person that I had dated in the past who was not the best. Let's put it that way. So I feel like that canvas is definitely just like a whole like kind of just like projecting my brain onto it. It's just like this is what I think of this person, which is not really good. But I really like that piece of art. It has a lot of meaning behind it. I actually submitted it to an art show as well. I remember picking it up with my art teacher, and the lady there, she was like, "You need to teach your students how to make real art." I was just like, what is real art? You know, and she, yeah, it was pretty funny because we were like, okay, who are you to tell us what to do?
What made you choose that art piece to put in the show?
Mainly because I feel like that art piece, it has better meaning than a few of the other art pieces that I have done. Except I didn't realize that that show didn't have like a place for like context or content or like to write about it. So it was just this splatter of paint and dust and other things just on this canvas, and it was just hung. And I think the funny thing was that it definitely stood out, which I really liked, because all the other art pieces, which were in the youth section because I'm still underage, most of them were all like still alive, so like cartoon style like drawings of people or things. Mine was basically the only abstract one, and mine was the only one that also wasn't framed. But what I do remember is that like it's like it was like warped at the top. I don't know how it warped in the first place, probably because of like how much stuff was on it, and it just like the wood just got like wet and everything. It just like it was just like a rectangle, but then like it was just like this. It's just like ever so bent. But yeah, I thought that was pretty funny.
I loved watching you create that art piece at that workshop. It was so much fun to like watch
fun.
it come together layer by layer, and I feel like the way it started, I would never have guessed the way it ended, but
yeah.
It turned out so beautiful.
Thank you.
And so amazing. And yeah, it was just so much fun to watch you get to create that.
It was super fun, and I definitely had a very interesting workspace. Samantha, she even said like I had like a very creative workspace because there's just like rocks and sand all over the place, and there's paint all over me. I wonder why. No, I had like a certain pair of pants that still have the paint there. But yeah, I guess that's just like a memory of that.
Have you been like drawing since you were little, or is it something you've just recently picked up?
I feel like not like I haven't been drawing like actual things since I was little, but I just like just like constantly doodling on random things. And I always found art, because I didn't really consider art as just like something that I would do, because every time I would do it, I would just get discouraged because I would say I'm a perfectionist, which is kind of a bad thing sometimes. So it's like, oh, this sucks, I hate it, and just end up throwing it away. So it just kind of just made me like feel bad about it. So it kind of just like suppressed it until I met like group of people and I started taking like all these different art classes at school, like photography, digital media, and like graphic communications and everything, which kind of unearthed that like part of me that I kind of like try to like suppress, which definitely has made me feel a lot better. Like it's a really good way to cope, and it's a really good way to like express how I'm feeling, and as opposed to doing it like in unhealthy ways. So yeah.
So you've been able to use it as a way to like express.
Yeah, 100%.
emotions and feelings.
100%.
That's awesome. Do you know if you want to pursue a career in art, or is it something you just love to do? And
I'm
for
gonna be
yourself?
honest, I don't know. There's lots of things that I could do as a career, but I kind of have like quite a bit of time, but also like no time at all to like figure that out. But I would say, sure, why not?
I think the first memories I have of like ever talking to you, you were like working on something for your school, like a design for
I
your
remember
sports team or something.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I don't remember what it was, but I do remember that interaction.
Who are some of your influences when it comes to your art?
A lot of my influences, definitely a lot of indie artists. Maybe more major would be Keith Haring, because he was also a gay man, but he grew up in a different era, and he's definitely a big major part of me. And I actually have an art piece that retrospect. It was just like this like this like piece. It has like a bunch of little boxes with like people or his style of people doing different things, and I redid it, and I really like that piece. It's one of my favorites, and also one of my first, actually. I stressed over it, and I've definitely stayed up lots of hours to work on it. But yeah, I would definitely say Keith Haring is, if I were to pick one artist, then I would say Keith Haring is a major influence on me, myself, and my art and my work. So Nicole, like, what are some things that you do, like, outside of Encircle, I guess, other than being like our assistant home director here that I see basically daily? Like hobbies, school, what do you do?
I mean, I grew up an athlete. I played soccer for about 15 years, so
I can say the opposite about myself.
yeah, that'll always like be a part of me, and I'll always love soccer. And I now hang out with my girlfriend and cat most of my time outside of Encircle. You know, we've spent many of hours talking about my cat. I am quite obsessed with him. And I have a really awesome and amazing partner as well who I love getting to spend time with. And then I'm also at school at the U right now, which is really awesome. It's been so great to be back on campus this year. And then, yeah, I spend a lot of my time here working at Encircle, and I love every minute of it. It's been a blast, and I love getting to meet so many awesome people like yourself and getting to form so many awesome friendships.
Definitely. Encircle, I feel like Encircle is a really good place to do that, especially where we're all kind of just like emerging from our little caves of quarantine.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty fun. Your favorite thing is to talk about your cat. Some days I'll just like sit in like the other room and here at our house, and you're just like, oh, Jeremy, have you seen my cat? Have I told you about this? I think my favorite part that you've told me was I think this was like during the summer a couple months ago, but you bought these like tiny little pairs of glasses for him. It was super cute, but
Yeah.
and he hated it. I think you showed me a video of him just like trying to like get it off of him. It
Yeah,
was
they were
super
on for a
funny.
total of 45 seconds, and they've never been on again. But it was totally worth it, those 45 seconds.
Definitely.
I was taking everything I had not to buy him multiple Halloween costumes. Every time I see one, I
There
just
was
wanna
one
buy it.
time you're like, hey Jeremy, should I get like this cat house or that? And it was like a good like $100 or $200, and I was like, Nicole, what money do you have to like
Obviously,
spare in this cat?
did not buy them, but it's fun to dream.
Definitely.
Yeah, I've looked at more expensive things for my cat. I've definitely looked at a couple grand, like cat houses. I've never seriously considered them,
Yeah, definitely.
but one
not.
day, I always tell my partner when we're rich one day, like we're probably not gonna be. We're gonna own a mansion and have a giant house for our cat.
Cute. Have you ever had any pets like in your childhood growing up or anything?
I had 2 dogs growing up. When I was a really little kid, we had a German Shepherd
Cute.
named Tazzy. Cutest little dog. I don't have a lot of memories with her, but she was our dog when I was a little kid. My parents also had a bunch of really unique pets before I was born. They had like ferrets and like mice, and then I was born and they were like, okay, that's too much. We don't need
You are the
any
pet.
more animals. And then I also, for most of my childhood, we had a Labradoodle named Nugget.
Oh my gosh,
Who
that's
was
cute.
the cutest. He recently passed away probably like 6 months ago, but he was really old, so we had him for such a long time. And then I also had, I think, a couple fish when I was a kid.
Cute.
I had a couple guinea pigs and a couple hamsters.
Cute.
But yeah, what about you? Did you have any pets?
So growing up, we didn't really have time for pets because no one was ever home. I was always out with my dad or something, so not really, but I definitely did grow up with like pets, not just at home, but like my cousins do have a few dogs. There's one, his name is Lucky. He is my absolute favorite. He's a really fat chihuahua. He is actually, no, I think he's turning 10 like sometime this week, maybe next week. He's pretty old. He's my favorite. He looks like a cow, which is my favorite part about him. And yeah, I've grown up with him basically. And my sister, well, not my sister, I guess. I just call her my sister, but she's my cousin. She also had a few dogs prior to that. It's a Chihuahua. They were all Chihuahuas. The 2 prior hated me, but that's okay because I was still a little kid, and I'm not really surprised about that. But yeah, Lucky loves me. Yeah. But other than that, I've never had any pets. Like, I've never had to take care of pets because I didn't have the time. Like, to be honest, I don't even have the time to take care of myself. Nicole, you said you were attending the U earlier. What are you studying at the U?
I'm studying psychology right now. I really want to go into clinical therapy, and hopefully one day be a professor as well. But yeah, I really love it. It's really awesome to learn about so much and get to work here, which is a job that correlates with what I'm studying with. So yeah.
Cool. Would you ever work as a therapist for Encircle?
Who knows? I don't know. I still have a little bit of ways left in my bachelor's degree, so got to get through that first. But I think it'd be really cool.
Cool. I've definitely considered psychology as something that I would do in like later in life as a thing once. So I could probably be on the same path as you someday. Maybe I would be on a different path, but
Yeah, I know we've worked on your psychology homework
yeah,
together.
it was a really stressful assignment. I do remember. I was like, hey Nicole, what do I do for like this and that?
Do you have any ideas of career paths you'd want to go into?
I think my most prominent would be probably graphic design or art or some of the newer disciplines like UX or UI design or experience something. I completely forgot what it was, but it was kind of like user experience, but like not on like a friggin' display or something. So yeah, I just feel like graphic design and just art can definitely help people, and it's something that we should incorporate into our daily lives with just the things that we use and like things that we look at. But I feel like the things that we use is most important because everything that we use could be art, I guess. Everything is art.
Yeah. Do you feel like you get to like express a lot of like of your like creative side and artistic side with graphic design?
Definitely. I feel like graphic design is definitely my major medium of art. So I guess I would say that's like my best way of expressing myself and my style of work or my art style. Yeah. Didn't you say you were like an artist or something, or just like doing that, like similar stuff like that when you were younger?
I've always just been really into like art. I've never really been one to be able to do it, but I love looking at it, and I try to get to as many art museums as I possibly can because I just love admiring art, and I think it's so cool. I recently got to go to the Art Institute in Chicago, and I saw Van Gogh's The Bedroom, and I genuinely was so shocked about how like emotional the painting made me feel. And I was actually being like, wow, I'm tearing up a painting of a bedroom, but it was so awesome and made me feel like so much emotion that I wasn't expecting. And I feel like I've talked to people since then, and so many people have related to that. And so I love that side of art, and I love that there's like you can portray so many different things and really yourself into it. And I love other people's talents. I think it's so cool, and like just I love all the art in the home, and I just love like looking at art and admiring art. I don't remember the artist's name, but I once saw this art piece that was done by a queer artist, and I was looking at it with my cousin who is heterosexual, and I was looking at this and being like, wow, like this is so beautiful, and like seeing all the things portrayed in it. It was a piece about like coming to terms with your sexuality. And I like saw these things about it and could totally relate. And she just kind of saw paint on a canvas, and we both laughed at it. And she was like, it's a beautiful piece, but I don't see the meaning that you're seeing.
Yeah, when my work was at the show, I was just like standing there staring at my art piece and just like listening to what like all like the families and groups of people were saying about it, because some people definitely said very negative things about it, but I definitely also heard some people like talk about some positive things about it, about like the color and the texture. And I also had one of the judges also like, he walked up to me because all the artists who like submitted stuff there were to like wear this little badge, or not badge, it was just like a little sticker from like the Dollar Tree, just like write your name, what piece you had. And he walked up, he's like, oh, you have one of the art pieces up here, do you mind if like critique it? So I was like, sure. And like we talked about it, and the way that he sees art, I kind of like personally don't see art that way, because he was like, oh, like I'm really happy that like you're in like a better mindset now. Like all art should be good, all art should be positive. Like, no, not really.
Yeah.
Like all art can be negative, art can be positive. It can just be a conveying of how you're feeling. That's what my piece was about. It was how I was feeling at the time of making it.
Describe to me, like, when you were making that piece, like, what those specific feelings you were trying to portray.
I was definitely kind of angry about it, so I was just like, bleh. But I was working on it with one of our former interns here at the Salt Lake House, Katie. She's pretty cool. I was standing with her, and she was doing hers there. Mine was definitely just like more like, it definitely had two different vibes to it. Like hers was like all like pretty and red, and mine was just like, oh, here's this red, it looks like blood, and here's this like muddy color. And definitely just like seeing those colors made me just think about what was going on at the time of making that, which was just like I was going through some deep crap, and making that piece kind of portrayed it.
Jeramy, do you have any advice or anything you'd like to say to anyone who's listening?
Or watching, I guess.
Or watching.
Or both. But I'd definitely say be yourself, and just don't hinder yourself, and just like, again, like how I said earlier, I'm kind of like bringing this back to when I said I was just like kind of like I have like a really bad perfectionist kind of behavior, which is kind of bad, but anyways, just don't let that like overcome you, and just like express yourself. Even though it might not look good, you should still keep it, and so you can like look back and reflect on how much you've changed. I am a super optimistic person, and I really like seeing change in people, and being able to like track like the change in myself just makes me feel better about myself, because I'm definitely doing a lot better than I was last year. So yeah. Do you have any advice?
I think the biggest thing is very similar to what you said, is just, being authentic and true to yourself, no matter what that looks like.
Don't
and
suppress yourself.
Yeah, not letting other people's opinions, influence that. And, I think one thing that was really big for me to start to understand was that when you start to do that, you're going to start to find the people who you relate with, and who are in your tribe, so to speak. And you'll have those people, and people who you feel like you can relate to and be yourself around, and who will be there for you. So yeah, I think just being yourself and finding those people that you can relate to and love, and who love you, and just remembering that you are worthy and valuable as a person, and you deserve a place in this world just as much as anybody else.
That's true, and Encircle can definitely help with the advice that you're giving to be yourself. Like Encircle, I know that we are super based on art, because it's like a way of expression. Like we have a whole art room dedicated to that. Yeah. So I think we're a really good resource and place just to do that.